Master the business of speaking with your hosts, Taylor and Austin. You're listening to Technically Speaking.
Welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking. We're your hosts, Taylor and Austin, and today we are delivering the real truth about sales for speakers, trainers, and experts. And the perfect person to do that, you may ask, is Phil Gerbyshak. Phil is a noted sales expert, corporate sales trainer, and small business coach who's passionate about building relationships, using social media for research and connection, and leveraging technology. He is a highly respected speaker who has been on the cover of Marketing, Media and Money magazine, the cover of Speaker magazine, and is presented at Influence, the national conference for the National Speakers Association. So look, if you've been struggling with sales or you hate picking up the phone and you feel like you're wasting your time on non-revenue driving activities, this is the episode for you. As always, stick around until the end for some awesome resources, and we hope you like this one. And we are live. Phil, man, it is so awesome to have you on the show today. I feel like it's just been a long time in the making.
Way too long, guys. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, certainly.
Great to have you.
Yeah. So, as we always like to kick off this show, what got you into the speaking space? And what was your journey like? How did you get here? Why did you stick around? Just fill us in.
Yeah. So really rewind right all the way back to the start of the world, age 4, front of the room, handing out papers. Can't read, but I'm going to fake it till I make it. Handing stuff out, talking to people. Okay, great. Forensics high school, but then went in the Navy, delivered email by hand for the NSA that listens, the National Security Agency. Thought the internet was fake. So I'm going to be a school teacher. Oh yeah, sure I am. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not, but I love to teach. So I'm thinking, okay, that maybe there's a way to teach, maybe there's not. And then I'm president of my association and I hired a professional speaker. And he was so bad that after 12 minutes, we had to pull him off stage and I had to fill the remaining 48. Somebody said, hey, dude, you should do this. And that was kind of the start of my journey.
Wow. 12 minutes on stage. How does someone have to be so bad that they have to get pulled off 12 minutes after they're on stage?
Well, let's think about first, how do many people hire speakers? They hire them based on their demo reel, their sizzle reel, which is their greatest hits or hit, right? Their greatest one story that they maybe told once really well. And they cut it up like 64 times because really they just changed their shirt and it's the same exact story, right? So this guy, he had a really good 6-minute piece. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And that was all he had. All he had was 6 minutes. So I was like, because at first I was like, okay, right. Some build up, of course. Nobody starts with their best material, though we should, let's be honest, right? As a speaker, punch him in the face right away.
The hook, right? Let's
go, right? Get the hook, get him in. And then 6 minutes of, wow, this is really good. And then 3 minutes of, oh my goodness. So I'm like, I had people like 12 minutes in. Now, I should have known because the guy followed me around like a puppy dog as soon as he arrived at the event. And I'm the president of the association. So I don't need an ankle biter, right? I purposely, at the time I didn't have kids. So I'm not used to people hanging on me. This guy would not leave me alone. And so I should have known, but I didn't. And people coming up to me saying, hey, you're pretty good at this, right? Hey, you should try this. I'm like, all right. Didn't think I could make any money. I saw my mentor, my hero, the guy who first believed in me, even before I did, Kirk Wiesler. Kirk wrote a book called Dog Poop Initiative. I don't know if you guys know Kirk or not.
No, but that's a great title of a book.
Wow,
yeah, it's a great book.
That right now.
The Dog Poop Initiative. Great book, right? Great human being. He believed in me before anybody else did. Social media came along. I had a blog. I had a podcast. Rewind 2006. Long time. I'm old in the internet age. And so I learned how to build relationships digitally, which at the time was like some foreign substance. Like, you mean you don't have to talk to people in person? No,
of course not.
Right?
Why would you?
Guys, we might have seen each other at an NSA event, but really, this is our relationship, right? We're digital. We're in the ether space, not the meat space. And so I'm like, okay, this is interesting. did that, had a blog, LinkedIn, Twitter, all this stuff. And then I gave my 2-year notice in corporate in 2008 and left in 2010. And from there, I joined the NSA that talks and won't shut up, the National Speaker Association. Right?
I get the analogy now between the NSA that listens and then the NSA that talks.
See? Right?
That's nice. That's real good.
You like that?
It's all about the callback. Wow.
All
Hook
about
'em
the
with the hook.
callbacks, Austin.
That was
right?
wonderful.
So there you go. So thank you. So there we go. So that's kind of how it all started. And I keep it going. I've actually attempted to go back into corporate a couple of times because I really think it's important to keep your skills sharp. So I was director of social strategy for a software company that went head to head with all the big banks and investment firms and financial advising firms on Wall Street. So that was really fun, teaching big companies that Twitter is actually safe. Now I'd probably tell them that it isn't, but back then it was, right? So back then it was. So I did that. And, and I was VP of sales training for another software company, teaching them how to sell. Because I'm kind of an odd duck in that I love tech and I love sales and I really love people. And that doesn't always all mesh together. So whatever it is, I'm focused on the connection and around the relationship. And in the middle of that is usually where you can find Phil Gerbyshak.
Nice. I love that. It's such a good combination too, especially in this space of speakers, consultants, coaches, authors, podcasts, all these, expert businesses, right? Because for most people in this space, this is not a local business thing. You're serving people all over the world a lot of the times. And in 2021, there's no way that you're going to be able to build a business without having a strong digital presence and an ability to connect with people digitally. So you're at an interesting juncture. And I know that in a lot of ways, that's how you've sort of built your reputation. I think anybody in this community knows you as being like the guy when it comes to digital sales and marketing, which is awesome. But anyways, I appreciate that about you. I think that's an important skill set to have.
Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious that, building on your expertise, obviously, and I know that you're involved in the same community as us, speakers, coaches, authors, podcasters, et cetera. What are some of the common mistakes that you see people making as it relates to their digital marketing and their ability to bring that connection into the digital world?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest ones is they think they can set it and forget it. Like they set up a social presence, they set up an outpost, they set up a blog, and then, well, it's been 9 months and I haven't said anything. Nobody's calling me. What's going on? This doesn't work.
It's not working.
No kidding, right? So that's the first one, right? They do nothing except for set it up, or worse than that, and I mean this, worse than that, they over automate. Everything goes out all the time. They just set it up. They never respond. They follow no people. And then they wonder why this, again, doesn't work. Now, when you get to a certain level, when you are the president, you don't follow anybody, okay? But the rest of us mere mortals need to be available and at least have the illusion of connection, the illusion that we're actually listening to somebody else. And I'll tell you that ratio of, I've got 15,000 followers and I only follow 363. I got to tell you, the meeting professionals, the folks in the audiences that I talk to are like, really? Like, nobody gives you advice? You don't follow anybody? And people say, well, you know what? You can use a Twitter list or you can set this up. No, come on. Listen, if you don't look like you're listening, you're not listening. If you don't look like you're participating in the conversation, you're not participating in the conversation, right? So you have to do that, right? You have to participate. And then I would say the third big mistake is that illusion of intimacy that so many folks have. Like, hey, I found you online so I can smack you in the face with a pitch, like right away. That pitch slap, as my friend Ron Tite calls it. Stop it. Like, don't pitch slap. Take some time to build a relationship. Now, that being said, okay, I want to be really clear here. If somebody has an event next week and you want to speak at it, absolutely be direct. Say, hey, Austin, I know that you've got an event next week. I just want to know, do you have any room for any other speakers? And if not, I could fill in at a moment's notice because I live in Orlando, Florida, and I know your conference in Orlando next week. So if somebody doesn't show up, I'm your guy. Here's my number. Give me a call, right? That's cool. I'm still being a value. I'm still being a service. But the other one, here we go. So Taylor, I was wondering if you hire professional speakers, No, don't, like, come on, man. Like, you can't do that on social. You might be able to get away with that on the phone, but you sure as heck cannot get away with that on social, because you should be doing enough research and looking at that person and saying, I see your event is the 15th of July at 3 p.m. And I don't see yet that you have a keynote speaker slot filled there. And I was wondering if you were interested in a tech and sales speaker that might be able to come in at a moment's notice. Would you like to learn more? I want to invite the conversation. I want to draw you close. Not blah, here's my one sheet. Blah, here's my speaker reel. Blah, here's my website. Stop that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not helping you. So those are the three big mistakes that I see.
Man, I am so glad we kicked off the episode with this information just right out of the gates. Like, all right, so there's a couple of things I want to highlight here, Phil, that you did just a tremendous job talking about. Is like the whole social media complex, right? Like the social media literally breaks down into two things: social and media.
Ooh.
Now you have media, and most people just automate that, but they're not being social. They're forgetting literally every aspect of it. And then to your other point about building relationships, and I think this even transcends outside of social media, like emails, for example. You're prospecting, you're reaching out to a decision maker. Maybe you didn't find them on social, but you just hit them right away with the pitch without even considering what their life is like or what's going on in their world, or trying to be of service or of value. And there's like, here's my demo reel, and here's my one sheet, and here's my website, and here's my speaker kit, and here's my... Holy crap. Like, and how does someone, Phil, like you gave a couple examples, but like, how does somebody actually build a relationship? Let's go with a concrete example. So we have an event, let's say 3 or 4 months out, doing some prospecting, you find a potential decision maker. How do we actually build the relationship? Because I know some people too who are so afraid of being direct that they'll just say, oh, hey, let's just do a networking call. And then they end up networking, never actually getting to the point because they can't actually drive it home. How do we strike that balance of building the relationship, yet still being direct enough to get the outcome that we're looking for and acknowledging that outcome?
So it's hard.
Yeah,
First thing,
sure.
let's acknowledge this.
Yep.
It's hard to do. I'll give you my best tips that work for me. And I'll tell you that it is some of this is because of my personality. Other folks, you adapt this for your personality. For me, I'm very self-deprecating. When I'm thinking about a relationship, I'm thinking about how I can be of service. And I'm not leading with my ask, right? I don't want to be an asshole right out of the gate. I want to be someone who's helpful out of the gate. So I see you have an event. Let's remark on that. Hey, congratulations, Austin. I see you've got this great event in Orlando in September. That's great. Do you need any help filling slots for speakers? Now, chances are this isn't Austin's only job. Let's be really clear. Austin's running his company. He's selling. He might be doing some tech. He might have his regular job, spend a lot of time heads down, doing email, stuff like that. Can I help you with a job that probably, frankly, is really challenging, but yet you're getting lots of missiles fired at you, but the offer for helping is great. The other thing that you can do, and this is actually the easiest thing to do, is to see who you know in common and ask for an introduction. Now, not your joker, broker, speaker buddies, unless they've spoken for them, but I'm talking about other people that you actually know that can say, Taylor's actually a really nice guy and he can help you out. I know, Austin, that you're having a hard time with this. And, if you talk to Phil, he could probably help you in a lot of ways. And he's not going to be pushy. He's just going to try to help you. Oh, okay. So we get on a call and I've got my pre-call. I've prepped, right? I've always got pen and paper. I've got a remarkable tablet, right? I'm prepping for this call, and my outcome, my ask at the end is, can we have another call? That's what I want, because that first call, I just want to add so much value that you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk to this guy again. That's the goal, right? You want them to say, oh my gosh, that was so valuable. I can't wait to talk to you again. You added all the value you can, give everything away, answer every question, come up with everything that you have. I just got off a call with someone that I'm going to be speaking with later this year, who I gave them so much value. They asked me to speak at their event. They made the ask. Now, let's say they don't, right? The next call is, hey, you know what? The last call, I just want to follow up. Did everything work? Did you need more help? Pause, listen, help more. And by the way, in July, I see you have this event. Is there any room for any tech sales speakers that you might have? Do you have a slot for that? If not, do you have other events that maybe I might be a fit for? Just make the ask. Make the ask after delivering value. So value over volume all day long. That's really the key. And that's the formula that I always use. Now, does it always work? No.
No.
Of course not. Nothing does. They don't always have a slot for me. I don't always fit, right? Sometimes, they've got 9 other white dudes on the stage, and I want them to have some diversity. I don't want to be white guy number 10 at or on a mantle, right, of nothing but dudes. I want them to have some diversity. But if there's a fit, I want to be considered. And you have to ask, because people don't know. They get trapped in their own world. They're so busy doing their own stuff. Their wheels are turning. Oh my gosh, my coffee's cold. My kid's running around. My dog is butt crapped his pants. What do I do here? Oh, and I've got an event in September. I totally didn't even think about that, right? So, and the help that you provide, to be clear, does not have to be about the event. It can be whatever they need.
That's right.
You can make a recommendation. Hey, here's a great book for you that might help you. Oh, by the way, hey, you know what? I listened to this podcast. It was super helpful. Here you go. Stuff like that, right? And sometimes, hey, you can be a little self-promotional. Hey, I was interviewed and I had a conversation about this, and I think about minute 9:15 would be really helpful for you, and you might want to give it a listen. That's helping, right? Value before volume. Value over volume all day long. That works.
Man.
Value over volume. That's such an easy thing to remember too. I love that. And more than anything, there's 2 major things I like about what you just said. First of all, and this one isn't super measurable or predictable, but I think that in a lot of ways, this approach to providing value as the first thing, it plays into the human's innate capacity to be reciprocal. Like, I think generally, if you do good work, then people want to pay that forward somehow because it's a positive exchange for everybody. And so you're teeing yourself up to get good karma, or whatever you want to call it, right? Where good things come back to you when you do good things. I think that just happens. But on a more measurable side, like, I think that so many people get stuck on sales because they're so concerned about the outcome, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves to say the perfect right thing that's going to lead to them saying a yes or whatever it may be. But what you just mentioned isn't you driving somebody towards saying yes or coercing them or persuading them or anything. All you're seeking is what we call a micro commitment, just the lowest barrier of entry next step that continues the relationship in a positive way, and that will eventually lead to the ability to make the ask in a way that's comfortable for everybody. And I think that for people that are scared by sales, that release of pressure to get something by the end of the conversation probably will enable a lot more people to be willing to try it. So anyways, I think both of those things are important notes to take away if you like what Phil just said.
Yeah. Can I add one little piece to that, guys?
For sure.
And that is, if sales makes you queasy, I want you to replace the word sales with service.
Mm-hmm.
Sales with service. It is a privilege to serve you. It is a privilege to be able to work with you. It is a privilege to make a sale. If I am of service, then I've given you value. It's only fair that I ask for some back. It's only fair. Because you have to have boundaries, right? I mean, we all have that family member that does nothing but leech money off of us. We do, right? I mean, we can think about them and that person in our head, and they never pay us back and we resent them. Sometimes when we are of service and we don't give people the opportunity to serve us back, they feel indebted, and then they won't even pick up the phone because they're like, oh my gosh, it's been a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. Oh my gosh, I owe Taylor so much that picking up the phone, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to pay him back, so I should just ghost him. Here's the thing. You have to make it safe for people to serve you back. Giving back to you is a gift from them to you, and you giving to them is a gift from you to them. So think about service. If you can always be of service, you will make more sales. You are serving a purpose. We were joking before, right? We're barely an entertainer as a speaker. Really, we are. We're barely entertainment. We're a slot on their schedule after dinner, before breakfast, after breakfast, start of the conference, end of the conference, filling a sales kickoff meeting, a monthly sales meeting. I mean, they're endless, right? Endless purposes, but we're barely entertainment. Well, what if we amp that up and our goal was to be of service instead of worrying about everything else? And sometimes the service is straight up entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's to make people laugh. That's of service. But think about that. What do you offer of service that people need? And then asking, hey, would you value this? Would a technology sales speaker be of value to your organization? And then let it go, because what they're saying is it's not a fit. It's not you, it's me. Well, why are you butthurt about that?
Mm-hmm.
Just make the ask and let it go. You couldn't possibly speak at every event this year. You can't. 365 days. I don't care if you're working from home. You do 3 a day, you're going to have no voice.
Right.
No, stop. How many do you really need? Right. I think that's the other thing.
Right.
How many do you really need? Do you need 1,000 speaking engagements a year? If you're charging $100, maybe you do. But if you're charging more than that, you got to be honest with yourself. What do you really need? And then make some asks to get there and understand, hey, if you convert 1 out of 10, that's pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Phil, I'm curious about this question for you, because obviously we work with both of us. We're in the world of speakers, coaches, trainers, and so on. And let's first acknowledge the fact that we're all business owners, right? So each person we work with, they own their own businesses. And one of the main goals of a business owner, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, here, is sustaining that business, driving revenue to it, right? But so why do you think so much time is spent in our industry, the people that we work with, on non-revenue generating activities? Like, even when people switch that mindset from like sales to service, they still don't want to do outbound and start reaching out to people. And they still would just rather automate everything on social media and wait for their lead magnet to drip out 10 emails to somebody to fall through the cracks later on. Like, why isn't there more revenue generating activity happen, even for people who understand, well, I can provide service? Like, what's the hesitancy there?
Well, I think rejection is a big thing.
Yeah.
Right? People don't like to be rejected. I'll tell you, I don't like rejection. I don't know. Austin, you like to be rejected? You like to hear no?
Really.
No.
How about you, Taylor? Do you like
I prefer to be accepted than rejected, for sure.
Of course. And that's a natural thing, right? But that's a hesitancy.
Mm.
And the reminder to that, to get us past that, and we have to practice this. This isn't innate. This isn't, because I don't love this either. And that is understanding that they're not rejecting me.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even rejecting my program. They're rejecting the idea that I can fit into their thing. And that's about them. So if we let that go and we let go of that outcome and we think about a positive outcome is, I had a really good conversation with them and I learned why not me. And then I put that in my CRM. And I know then that if that ever changes, or if they change, right? If I can tell you, meeting professionals, the people that run the meetings, and sometimes they're not meeting professionals, right? Sometimes they're just people that have to hire a speaker, right? HR, sales managers, they don't hire speakers for a living. So those jobs change. 17 months is about the average time frame. So get over the rejection, call back, right? Put it in there, right? Pay attention on LinkedIn. Hey, Taylor, if we can't do business, maybe we can connect on LinkedIn and we can see how we can help each other. And then I get the alert on LinkedIn Sales Navigator that says, bing, Taylor is no longer working at SpeakerFlow and is now here at new company. And now Austin got promoted. Ooh, I haven't talked to Austin yet. I'm going to try to talk to Austin to see if maybe my program aligns with his needs. Again, not rejecting me, right? So rejection, first one. Second reason that people don't make more outbound is they think they're interrupting.
Yep.
They are. You are.
They are. Yeah,
It's
you're a
how it
professional
works.
interrupter.
You are.
Yeah.
That's okay, right? The thing is, they still need to do that, but the filling the not barely an entertainer slot at their event is probably right after making sure that you have creamer for the coffee for the morning. Like somewhere in there, right? It's seldom. Now, sometimes, but seldom do they build the whole program around the barely entertainer. And that's when it's really an entertainer. Like if Beyonce's coming in and we're going to run an event around all the single ladies. Okay, that's totally cool, right? But she's the center. Phil Gerbyshak doesn't have a song like that. And honestly, when I dance like that, people leave the stage, right? So,
Is that
so
from
we don't want
experience,
that.
Phil?
Yes, it is. Yeah. One time at band camp. Oh wait, we can't talk about that, right?
Touch a subject.
Yeah. So that'll be the Phil After Dark program that'll come after the show today.
Okay,
right. So but yeah. So seldom does that happen. So we are an interruption, but we're also helpful. So how we overcome that is we're respectful. Hey, Taylor, I'm calling, and if you have 30 seconds, why I can tell you why I'm calling you. I saw that you have an event on Tuesday, June 37th, and I thought maybe I could help you fill the program. And I don't see that you have anything yet. But this is where you have to do the research. This is not magic, right? That's the big miss here.
Yeah.
You can't just pick up the phone, right? This is, to use Art Subject's terms, it's smart calling, not cold calling.
That's right.
You have to know something. Otherwise, you're not a value. Otherwise, you are just an annoying interruption. So be of value. So that's and then the last one is, frankly, I think they're lazy. I'm going to call people on this. I think you're lazy, right? You think that an automation drip campaign that you built out, that you paid somebody really smart and really cool to build, and then you paid a copywriter to write it, and then you put it on your website, and you're hoping magically that some meeting professional jumps into your funnel and gets through the bottom of it when you finally make an ask of, by the way, perhaps you could hire me to speak. No, stop. No meeting professional is going to wade through your list of 10 things and then suddenly magically say, oh, yeah, I got to hire Phil Gerbyshak. Now, that's not to say that that's a bad thing. It's not to say that sometimes they might not even buy your program, but that's not why they're choosing you to speak. They're choosing you to speak because they saw your video. They read a little bit of content. They heard you on a podcast. They heard about you then from one of their friends. The number one way that meeting professionals and people who hire speakers find other speakers is referrals.
That's right.
Referrals. If I see that Austin is connected to Taylor, my first call should not be to Austin. It should be to Taylor. Taylor, how well do you know Austin? Would you be able to make an introduction? Can we get on a 3-way call? What can you say? And Taylor could say, I don't know Austin. Or he could say, oh, yeah, I love Austin. He's great. You should really talk to him. Let's get on a call. You've now bypassed all the crap. And now all you have to do is prove that you're worthy. That's it. Now you got to prove you're worthy. And how do you do that? Well, now you've got a demo reel. Now you've got a website. Now you've got a book. Now maybe you have this 10-step cool funnel that you can show them examples of, not sign them up for, but show them examples of. So they're like, oh, wow, man, you've got aftercare. You've got this aftercare program so they can continue to go deeper. Oh, wow. And you have a product that can solve more problems. Oh, wow. Right. So maybe speakers are just a little lazy, or maybe they're a lot lazy. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, that's true. And I mean, I get it. Like, honestly, right, the human condition is such that you try to take the path of least resistance, generally speaking. And I think a lot of people get into this business without thinking about the fact that it's a business. This is not a hobby that's just magically going to create outcomes for you. Like, you have to do the work. And like, it's natural for that to be the case. There's no business that just overnight all of a sudden is successful. Like, right? If it was, everybody would be doing it. That's the bottom line. Like, if being an entrepreneur and running a business and making money and providing huge amounts of value and managing all of it, if it was easy, there would be a lot more entrepreneurs than there are. And if you're going to get into the space, you have to acknowledge reality. Otherwise, you're going to be severely disappointed when it comes time to do the work. So I don't think that people are lazy because they choose to be lazy a lot of the time. I think people just don't acknowledge reality. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I think that's mostly true. I think people, the hope strategy is a big strategy for a lot of folks.
Pray and pray.
They hope they'll get seen by Oprah. They hope that their tweet will get picked up by the New York Times. They hope that their video will go viral. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen, gang. It's just not. I'm just telling you, unless you created the evolutionary dance 20 years ago and you're Judson Lapley 20 years ago, it is really hard to stand out with a video of you performing by yourself. It's really, really hard. Now, sometimes it does, right? Sometimes it catches fire. You're really funny. It hits the spot that's really hot. Scott Stratton's gotten gigs that way because his videos are, spot on, and the stuff he says is really, really crazy good. But that's not most of us.
Well, and he's been publishing content for how long? It's a numbers game,
forever,
just like outreach, right? Like you get better with it with time. You don't just make a tweet and when you don't have any followers and you don't regularly engage with people and all of a sudden it goes viral. It's the iceberg effect. You only see this tiny amount of the entire piece of the puzzle. And I think people just tend to miss out on that. And, Phil, one of the things I want to pick your brain about here on the topic of sales and technology is like, does sales need to be this extremely complex, like step-by-step process with the perfect messaging and perfect templates and automated things? Or like, how simple can sales really, really be?
Well, I'm a sales guy, so it's got to be complicated, Taylor.
Of course.
If it's not hard, no,
it's not hard.
Just kidding. Of course not. It isn't hard, right? It can be super simple. I will tell you, simple is not easy.
Right.
I have to give that disclaimer, but yes, super simple. Here we go. Ready for this process. First, find the person you want to talk to and find their contact info. Second, think about, what do you want to say to them? What do I want to talk about? What's a logical next step that I might ask for at the end of the call? What's value I can add to them, right? And then 3, pick up the phone. Send the email, connect on LinkedIn, whatever. But I would encourage you. I said pick up the phone first because it's the hardest one and it gets you the best results. Yes, they might not answer. Then it's real easy. Then you combo it. I think it's Tony Hughes. I can't remember his last name, right? Combo prospecting. Here's the 1-2 punch. I call and the voicemail says something like this. Hey, Austin, I know you're super busy, so you don't have to call me back, but I want you to know I just sent you an email with some information.
Nice.
The email subject line is real simple. I left you a voicemail. Here's the information I promised. And then send them the information, really simple, and invite the ask. Would you like to learn more? Now, often the answer is no, in which case you have to be more persistent, or the answer really, I lied. It's not no. It's usually crickets, nothing. So 15 tries. Be ready to make 15 attempts. 15. Boom. 15 attempts. Now, that does not mean you send the same crappy message 15 times.
No.
It means phone call, followed up with an email, LinkedIn connection, Twitter, Instagram, another email. Maybe you sent some lumpy mail, another phone call. I sent a video. I sent a text message. Oh, I mentioned them in one of my posts. I asked for their feedback. I call them again. I send them another message. I bump it up. Here we go. I got 15 tries there, but not the same crappy message. It's got to, A, raise awareness that, yes, you're a person to help, and B, it's got to be worth opening. So you got to have a good subject line. I mean, that first one, if they don't open that, now you got to get creative. But here's the great news. If you have a great message, the only thing that you need to tweak then is probably the subject line. You don't have to rewrite the whole message. Mm-hmm. Just tweak the subject line. That's cool, right? You spent all day crafting this perfect message. Then just tweak the subject line. Make it shorter, make it longer. Look at what it looks like on mobile.
Yep.
Think, boy, did I send this on a holiday? What, right? But 15 tries. That's the follow-up sequence. And then here we go. Make an offer. Mm-hmm. Get them on the phone. Hey, does it make sense for me to send you a contract to speak at your September event?
Right.
Or are you interested in learning more? Because we ran out of time. Either way is fine.
So actionable. It's the exact same thing we teach. It's so close. It's honestly humorous. It's 15 touches. The 15th is decide what you want to do with the lead, basically. But it's this concept that like the average number of touch points, and for those of you that don't know this, before somebody gets to the next step, not before they buy from you, before somebody gets to the next step in the process, like booking a meeting, right? Like I think that's kind of the goal, right? Get them on the phone or book a meeting or whatever after you're doing some prospecting. Take 7 to 12 touch points on average before someone's going to do that. So if you get to 14, 15 touch points, like at the end of that, you can confidently move that lead somewhere else and prioritize something differently. And one of the things that you outlined here, Phil, that I have to make sure everyone listening understands. I'm going to tie this back to the very beginning where you mentioned setting it and forgetting it. So many of us, what ends up happening is you end up writing some email templates. You put in some subject lines, you got like 7 or 8 because you're really excited about this 15 touch process. So you get it going and you just never change anything. You never look at the data. You don't look at the open rates. You don't look at the click rates. You don't look at the reply rates. You don't iterate on the subject line, like you said. You spray and pray your way through your prospecting, and you're not intentional before you reach out about what matters to that person so you can actually focus on the relationship. And sales doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Just focus on the relationship, add value, stay top of mind, and understand that it takes 7 to 12 touch points at a minimum before somebody moves on to the next step. And you're going to do just fine out there. So Phil, thank you so much for rounding that out at the end. I really appreciate it. The value here is just so jam-packed. I want everyone to go and listen to this episode twice, take notes, and go do something with this episode. Stop listening to this show and go start selling, because that's exactly what you need to do in order to generate revenue in your business. So Phil, as we always like to round out these episodes, what are you working on right now that our listeners can benefit from? How can they get more of Phil?
Sure. Well, I've got a LinkedIn Sales Navigator Jumpstart course that'll be launching real soon. By the time you listen to this episode, it'll be out. Make sure we put the links in the show notes for you, because you need to get started, right? Sales Navigator is LinkedIn times 10. It's LinkedIn times 10. And you combine that with the speaker intel engine, with a great CRM. Now you've got something, right? Because part of that touch is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, of course, a walled garden. They don't want you just putting people in there. And I would tell you, until you qualify them as a lead of somebody who has a need, you should be looking at LinkedIn, right? You should be spending a lot of time there, because that's a professional networking site. So the LinkedIn Sales Navigator Jumpstart will be out soon. Of course, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's really simple. You can spell Gerbyshak and find me. That's Gerbyshak. Real simple. There's 2 Gerbyshaks, maybe three or 4 now. But so my brother Paul, that's really close, but he's got like 12 connections. That's not me. Brock is my cousin. He's an engineer. That's not me. I'm Phil Gerbyshak. Really simple. You find me. And then, as you're listening to podcasts, as you're thinking about, I need some sales tips. Well, just again, search for Phil Gerbyshak. You'll find my podcast, Conversations with Phil Gerbyshak, but you'll also find the shows like this wonderful one that I've been on, where I've shared some sales insights.
Awesome. We'll make sure all of those links are in the show notes. So be sure to explore, go connect with Phil, explore all of the content. And hey, if you like this one, don't forget to rate it, like it, subscribe to it. And if you want more awesome resources like this, go to speakerflow.com/resources. Thank you so much for chiming in. I just wanted to take a second to thank our sponsor, Auxbus. Auxbus is the all-in-one suite of tools you need to run your podcast. And it's actually what we run here at SpeakerFlow for Technically Speaking. It makes planning podcasts simple. It makes recording podcasts simple. It even makes publishing podcasts to the masses simple. And quite honestly, Technically Speaking wouldn't be up as soon as it is without Auxbus. Thank you so much, Auxbus. And if you are interested in checking Auxbus out, whether you're starting a podcast or you have one currently, get our special offer, auxbus.com/speakerflow, or click the link below in our show notes.
Thanks for tuning in today. Check the show notes for more info and see you next time. Later.